Hey, everybody. I thought we would do something special today in regards to the animals message for the month of May, which is stillness. With me, as you can see here, is a friend of mine. Her name is Dr. Jennifer Rochlis. I actually met her through an astrology class that we continue to go through, and she was recently on the Animal Communication podcast with me and Karen and Meredith. And what's really cool is the animals had told me all about stillness. And then I get Jennifer's email newsletter, and it's all about stillness for the month of May. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we need to talk about this because as we were talking earlier, there's so many different paths into understanding who you are and growing, evolving, creating self-awareness, stronger authenticity, all of that stuff. The animals are just one way. And Dr. Jennifer Rochlis is a expert, a person to reach out to for human design, which I find super fascinating. So I thought, wow, we should talk about human design in regards to stillness, because it's just like we were just saying a little bit ago. This is such an amazing month. May is because all the blossoms are happening, the animals are giving birth, and there's just all this energy, and we got to go, got to clean up the yard, as I talked about in my own video. And yet the animals are also saying, all right, just take a breath. Let's find some time to be still, and what all that meant. But when I saw Jennifer's, I thought, oh, we need to talk about why, from a human design perspective, stillness is also key. So what is it? Jen, let us know.
So, I didn't realize when I made my newsletter, I had been thinking about silence and stillness together. Silence to me is kind of a parallel concept with stillness, because, we're a lot of times uncomfortable with silence. We don't know what to do in a silence. It's hard to find and seek silence and get still, right? And sometimes that stillness is body stillness, we're on the move, but a lot of times it's mental stillness and silence. Like it's very hard to quiet our minds and we are always running and running. And that's one of my learning points in my human design. I have the gate 24 as my conscious sun. So that's like 70% of my energy in my life lesson is around getting silent and getting still in my mind, so that creativity and ideas and inspiration and innovation can drop in. But if I'm too busy up there, there's just no room for it to come in. And so what I didn't realize was that it was coming up on my conscious sun, my birthday. And so that was the time when the sun for the whole planet was coming into gate 24. So everybody on the planet was getting lit up with this energy. So for those of you who don't already have it in your human design chart, then you might have actually felt some either drive towards it or questions around it, or that's why it was so timely with the animals. And my newsletter just happened to, obviously be great timing. So there was that happening at the beginning of the month. And as you say, for spring and all the things, we're just feeling like we're supposed to be popping out of hibernation and be all lively and ready to go and re-blossom. But I just wasn't there yet. So I was contemplating this. Um, and then I'm happy to talk about it in terms of how it relates to each of the different human design types, because as I just mentioned, there's a gate activation that I have, the gate 24 in my chart. But I think for most people who are likely more new to human design, it might make more sense to kind of go through generally how it impacts that, a type, more so than your specific gates. Does that sound like a
Yeah,
good?
I think that would be great. And I would even just give a quick definition of what human design is, just for those who are completely new to everything. Yeah.
Got it. Will do. And then also you could check out, like Julie said, the podcast we did, because we went into a little more depth in that. So hope you'll listen to that as well if you haven't already. So human design is a system, it's a tool, and it represents about 7 different philosophical systems, from astrology to I Ching to quantum physics, chakra systems. And it's really a snapshot. It's a kind of like a pictogram of all of the human archetypes of energy that we experience. And based on your time and place and date of birth, it kind of gives us an idea of what the snapshot of you is in terms of what kinds of energies do you always come to the table with? What is consistent for you? What do you always express? And what are the other energies where you have openness? And where you have openness, you obviously, may have more flexibility than you would if you're defined somewhere, right? So if you have some openness, you take things in, you try them on, you have to give them back. They're not yours, to keep, because that's not your consistent energy. But we can gain a lot of wisdom in those places, but we can also have a lot of conditioning in those places, because if we're not, consistent in some way, we have more openness, then a lot of times we can get other people's ideas and thoughts and energies into our fields that aren't really ours. And that'll become important in a minute. So when we look at human design, we're looking at a snapshot of you. It's a blueprint of your energetics. It talks about how you're designed to use energy and what you're bringing to the planet in terms of the role that you're here to play based on your energetics. So that's probably the highest level I would start with for
That's cool.
describing it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, so I'll just walk through quickly the types.
Perfect.
I'll talk about the stillness. We can go each one by one and maybe we can chat because we're going to come upon your type and we're going to come upon
Yeah.
Lucas's type. So we'll get to that. So there are five types in human design: manifestors, generators, manifesting generators, projectors, reflectors. And the way that I learned how to describe this to folks is to think about putting on a concert. So manifestors, and by the way, manifesting in human design means initiating energy. It doesn't mean like creating consciously or unconsciously or quantum mechanically. It's everybody does that. But manifestors are like initiators or like cosmic spark plugs. So they're really here to put the ideas out into the world. So they'd say, okay, let's do a concert. Let's play something classical. Then the generators and the manifesting generators, who are like 70% of the population, are one of these two types. And they are like the workforce of the planet. They've got this really strong sacral energy for things that light them up. And they are taking inspiration and ideas and turning it into form. They're alchemists, they're making it happen. And so they'd say, got it, I'll go hire the venue and hire the musicians and make the programs and all the marketing and the PR and all of that, right? So they do the work putting on the show. Then the projectors would come in. I'm a projector type, and we are like the orchestrators. So we don't have that really strong go, go, go sacral energy. But what we're doing here is helping to guide and mentor everybody else. So we are watching the musicians play, and we know how each musician should sound if they're playing their best. And we also know how the whole piece should sound if everyone's playing their best. So when we work with people, we're really talking about their fullest potential and also how that fits into the collective potential. So that's what we do. Then the reflectors, which are only 1% of the population, they're the audience. And they, as the name suggests, they are reflecting back to us how we're doing. They reflect back our energy. In their chart, it's completely open. They have no definition. They're designed to be here to pull in everything that's happening around them and show it back to us as a measure of how healthy we are as a collective and a community. Does that sound like a good overview?
Yeah, that's amazing. I love the concert analogy. I will remember that. Thank you.
Yeah. It's kind of easy to kind of go through and be like, everybody has sort of a role to play, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, cool.
So in terms of stillness and silence, so I'll kind of go through each of the types. I don't know if you have manifestors in your world or you know any. I have a daughter who's one. For manifestors who feel this really great creative potential to initiate things, stillness is really for them about like resetting. Like they really need a reset. And it's alone time. It helps them recharge. It helps them recenter all that creative energy and really reconnect with their own inner authority, their own inner decision making, their own instincts, because a lot of times they're reacting to other people's expectations. So for manifestors, it's really important to have that reset, to really embrace that stillness and that silence, but they likely will resist slowing down because we have this conditioning in our society that says, don't be lazy, be driven, go do, right? And they want to be very productive and they want to be very powerful and they know they are. So slowing down to rest feels like really counterintuitive. But that's the way that they get their own agency back, right? In that quiet, they're like, oh, this is me. I hear me now. Does that?
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Okay, generators, which is like you. Uh,
Yep.
Stillness can feel a little bit awkward, like it feels a little like not comfortable, I'll say, but it's necessary, right? Because you guys are all like you're wired to respond to life. Like you're like, I'm at it, right? And then when something lights you up and you're excited about it, you just thrive when you're in motion and when you're engaging in things and with people. And so the silence, though, if you don't embrace it, it tends to not allow you to hear that internal yes or no, that sacral gut feeling yes or no, because all the shoulds are likely overcrowding it, right? So when your mind is busy and you're kind of logic and reason through things or rationalize things, right? You are thinking of all the things you should do or shouldn't do. And it's then crowding out the sound of your gut, which is going, hey, like that's like, yeah, or like, no, not that one, right? So So that silence is really important for you to connect with it. Um, but if you're not embracing it, you're going to get like restless and it's like busy work, right? You're trying to avoid that inner dissatisfaction or that inner voice that's trying to tell you something. So in terms of your own decision making, silence is really about discerning because you're
Mm,
always, as a generator, trying to figure out, is this where I should put my energy or no? Is this the right time for this idea to be brought forward into form or no? Is this the right time to take action and take the next step? Is this the right path to be on? Right? Like this is kind of how you tune in and say, okay, I hear the guidance, right? But if we're too busy and we don't get still, we can't hear it. Does that
yeah.
sound like something that you've experienced?
Oh my God, I had it this morning
Oh,
because I have, so I do my little practice in the morning, and my husband had gotten up super early, like he couldn't sleep. So he came back to bed and fell asleep. And I was between things I needed to, like, I finished my practice and I could do other stuff. And I realized I was being a gift to be still. So I took it and I'm so glad I did. But yeah, I have to keep moving. It's hard. Yes.
yeah, it's
You
hard.
can go on.
No, no, and this type too, I mean, I live with one, my partner is one as well. This can also be hard for people to stop and recognize and take credit for all the things that they've done and their accomplishments. I notice that a lot with generators. They do so much. That's kind of why they're here, right? To help us really alchemize the world.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't give themselves the credit because there's always something else to do. And so that stopping to really recognize yourself is also really important. I think we don't tend to do that as much as we should.
Yeah. Yes.
um,
Great.
for the manifesting generators, we call them time benders in the quantum language of human design because they're like generators. Um, they have the go-go sacral energy, really, really fast, very powerful creatives. They got the manifestor piece in there too. So with this combination happens, they're really here to help us skip steps and get really good at knowing what's the most efficient, effective way to get something done. So they tend to do 80 things at once. Not all of them will actually come to fruition or even be finished, but
Mhm.
they're trying on all the ways to do it so they can help us figure out, oh, this is the best way. Here, do this. Okay. And they tend to skip steps a lot as part of their learning process. It's totally how they're designed to learn things. But that stillness, for them, it has to be really strategic because if they move too fast and they skip steps, right? Having to go back or even stopping or pausing or that silence is going to feel like their whole creative cycle is getting interrupted, or it's really inconvenient. Like silence for them is just like really inconvenient because they could be doing something to make everything faster and better.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but again, it's a really powerful tool for them to recalibrate, like especially when they're pivoting or they're multitasking and they're doing 20 things. Um, we don't want them to get frustrated in that pause. It's necessary sometimes for them to go, oh, hold up a sec. Am I still on the path? Am I still in the right time? Am I still in the right place? Kind of all those same similar questions. But that's where their clarity comes from. So whereas for generators exclusively, like, or if you're just a generator, not just a generator, but, you're looking for to hear your inner voice. For the manifesting generators, they're getting clear on which path is still aligned for them and what's outdated because they move so fast. They're going to miss the cues sometimes that there was an exit ramp they should have taken and they didn't.
Mm.
Right.
Okay,
So
yeah.
this is kind of like, hey, am I still on the right track? Am I still following, like where I want to go? So
Okay.
that's how manifesting generators can really use this for themselves
Okay. Cool.
strategically. Right.
Yeah.
Um, for myself, like, and projectors, there are 20% of us. I didn't mention that earlier, but there are about 20% of us out there. Um, Stillness is like medicinal. This is restorative for us.
Mm.
We are naturally incredibly sensitive to other people's energies. I'm not talking about empathic configurations. That's something different. This is just projectors in general, because we're so tuned to really dive deep into someone's personal potential. We need to pull in all their energy and work with it and sit with it. But that means equally we need to sit in silence to empty ourselves out because we are always really focused in on you when we're talking to you. And we need to be then able to kind of tune in for ourselves and get rid of all of that. Um, and projectors by nature have the stigma that people think that they're lazy. And I know that I have been thought to be lazy, like when I'm out of energy. And I'm like, no, I just can't keep up with you. I cannot. And we don't have that sacral definition that would mean that we could have that, continuous energy source. We really don't. We've got to rest. And so it's the only way that we can stay attuned and clear because we're holding so much of the energetic template for the collective and for individuals that we've got to get back to ourselves. So there's a lot of guilt, I think, around resting, and especially we've been conditioned to keep up with the rest of society and climb the ladder as fast as everybody else and keep climbing it, right? And get on the hamster wheel and all the analogies you want to use. And that's just not how we're designed. We're going to burn ourselves out, and then we are not good to anybody. Like if we're not able to really give you solid assistance in helping guide and mentor you. So silence for us is like energy sovereignty. Like we really need to own our own energy, and it helps us hear our truth, not everyone else's truth. From a
Mhm.
feeling standpoint, a lot of times, from an emotional standpoint, a lot of times, and the sensitivity that we have for others. Yeah.
Wow. Fascinating.
Yeah. And I
Wow.
know when I don't do this, like I'll give you an example of this. My
Mhm.
son, who's now 18, but a few years ago, he came downstairs. He was in high school and he was working through an issue. And he was like, "Mom, I need to chat with you about this." And I'm like, "Sure." And as I was resting, literally passed out on the couch, like reading a book or watching TV or something. I was just doing nothing, right? Because I needed to. And I was fine, calm. He comes down in a snit, like just, really wired and like this thing. And he was telling me all about the problem and he was, blah, 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 blah. And I think within like 90 seconds, I was right there with him. I was like, okay, well, blah, 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 blah. And I was trying to like, and then I caught myself and I was like, oh, I'm marrying his energy. This is not me. And I said, hold on a second. I said, hold on. I was like, time out, time out. I said, this is not how any of this is going to get worked through. So I need you to go away for like 5 minutes and let me think on what you just shared with me. And then we'll come back and we'll try this again. And he was like, okay, fine. So he did. He left. And I needed to I needed to be quiet. I needed him gone. I needed my own energy to calm down. And then I was like, okay, now, based on what he said, I think this is what we should talk about, right? And then I was able to guide him and ask him questions and coach him through his challenges, but not from this place of matching him. I had to pull it down. So I see this quite often. And after I work with clients, like I really need to go outside. I need to ground. I need to like get out of my space. I need to go move somewhere and really just reset. So
Wow.
I've lived this.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
um,
Wow.
Last, reflectors. This is Lucas. So
Yes, this is Lucas.
um, stillness and silence for reflectors, it's like survival. Like it's even more than
Mhm.
medicinal. It's really about survival. They absorb everything, as we said. They need regular silence so they can actually just reflect and observe on what's going on. And it helps them distinguish what's theirs from what they're sampling because they're constantly in energy sampling, environment sampling mode. And reflectors' biggest challenge in life is really understanding who they are apart from the rest. So they can, if they don't take enough stillness or silence, over identify with other people's emotions, right? Or they can feel under pressure to decide too quickly. These are people who need a lot of time to make a big life decision. So if you're
Mhm.
asking them to make a quick decision, they're likely going to decide based on something pressured or something that's really not theirs, or excuse me, or like it could be someone else's real need, but not their own.
Mhm.
So this is where their wisdom comes from, right? Is
Mhm.
allowing that space for deep reflection, lots of time to integrate. And that's where they learn and grow for themselves. So, but again, that takes time. And a lot of the other types you can see are more go, go, go. And so
Mhm.
I'm curious to know how between you and Lucas that works for you because I believe sometimes he'll probably help you calm, and other times he's going to meet you where you're at and just reflect back to you. Is that kind of what you experience with him?
All the time,
Hey,
all the time.
yeah.
It was just when you were just saying about the taking time to even make a decision. Um, and I'm also thinking of him in terms of like he's all the breeds that he is, which is a pointer husky greyhound mix. He was originally bred for sprint mushing, which is, and then he didn't quite make the team, so they put him up for adoption. So there's, I think, a whole lot in that. But the length to make a decision, because he's sleeping at my feet right now. And we've got a routine that he likes to hold us to. And any changes to that routine don't really go very well. Um, and which is fine to me because it keeps me grounded in, okay, now let's do this. Now let's do this. Now let's do this. He's like, whoa, hold up a minute. It's still nap time, or this was my time to eat. Like, hold up. And also, too, to some degree, a little bit like what you were talking about, projector and like being able to like you got to clear the energy. What
Mhm.
I do find that he does a lot is after a session, as soon as I hang up on Zoom with on a session, he'll be fast asleep. But the minute I say goodbye, he comes out from behind underneath my desk and lays on the floor and rolls on his back. And he's like, okay, come here.
Mm.
And just to like clear to some degree, and just bring me back into mine. The stillness aspect for me too, with with my dad passing, almost 9 months ago, something like starting to lose track of the months, but um, he, it's almost like he's slowed down even more. Yes, he's aging. And at the same time, I mean, he's only 9, but I do notice him slowing and going slower on walks. This is a dog that would bolt after deer. And now he's like, hey, do you see the deer there? Because he's just kind of forcing me to go slower, be still, take the time that I
Yeah.
need to recover from a lot of this stuff that's happening. And you're right, as far as the generator, we don't give ourselves enough credit, because I also notice, like, I have with all of the grief and then going through this trauma informed grief course, I'm hearing a lot of feedback that, wow, you have a lot on your plate, Julie. Like, because I've got my dad passing, I got my mom with Alzheimer's, I have all these other things. And I don't think about it in terms of that. I'm like, sure, it's just a thing I got to do. But people are like, oh my God, how do you do all that? I'm like, I don't know. So I can see why him now, like almost he's the brakes to some
Mhm.
degree. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you told me that my dog Maddie, she's a projector too. Um, and so I had run her chart when we met and you did readings for her. And
Yeah.
one of the you told me about how she works with me is to really like she will sit on the floor, like I'll be on the couch because that's where I need to like decompress, and she will
Yeah.
sit on the floor by me and just ground me. And
Mm.
she does that exactly that because and I can tell when she comes over and she sits there, it's my cue to just stop solving, stop fixing, stop being a guide for everybody else, right? And so what's interesting is my two oldest children are in college now, and this whole year, um, it's been myself and Maddie and my daughter, who's also a projector, and then my partner comes in as a generator. So the whole dynamic during the day, when it's just her and I, two projectors, we're snuggling, we're hanging out, we go for a walk together, and then we're like, okay, yeah, we're napping, like it's like that. And then my daughter comes home from school, and for like 5 or 10 minutes, they're so excited to see each other. And then my daughter, who's a projector, is like, okay, now I'm off, like I'm done with school, I need a break. So the three of us are just like, okay, we're just breaking, And then when my partner gets home, it's all like, whoop, 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 and she gets excited for a long time until she reads that he's kind of trying to take his moment to calm down. And then everybody calms down. So it's just so funny to see how she responds differently to the different people in the family. When my kids come home, she'll get, more energetic and she'll feed off of them quite a bit. But she's a snuggler, thank goodness, because if she wasn't, I don't know what I'd do if I had like a generator dog for me who just needed me to go, 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 go. Like I would not be a good dog mom because I would just be so tired.
Oh yeah. I would be so worn out because I can't keep up with myself. Like if I I have to try to do it and I'll put everybody else before me before I'll take care of me too, right? So if I yeah.
I think,
Interesting.
there's another thing that happens in silence and stillness, especially for generators, but for all of us to some extent. We honestly don't know what to do with ourselves. Like, what do I do if I'm just sitting here?
Mhm.
We're so conditioned that doing is a measure of something about us, whether it's
Yes.
worth, value, output. It's not. It's just us being. And we've just forgotten how to just be.
Hmm.
And I think, like I said to you, before we started recording today, was, animals are experts at just being.
Yeah.
I think they can really help us, not just energetically, like we've talked about, but just the reminder that this is the now. This is what we have. And just being still and being here
Hmm.
is enough. Not
Yeah.
spending every moment trying to get somewhere else. Um, and that can be uncomfortable for a lot of people because we honestly just don't know what to do in that time and
Yeah.
space. And so I think um, just noticing what's around is enough sometimes. When I used to try to meditate, which was really hard for me because getting my mind to quiet with this gate energy is very challenging. But I found that if I tried to focus on the sounds I was hearing,
Hmm.
that actually was felt really restorative to me because I could notice the sound and not feel like I was cheating on my meditation, but it gave me something to notice. It gave me something to go, okay, I'm just here. I'm just trying to see if I can recognize or notice any sounds. And then when I heard it, it would just come in and out, and then another one would come in and out, but it kept me somehow still, right?
Hmm.
Without judging the moment or trying to feel something. That tended to work for me if I was meditating, but sometimes it was hard for me just to get quiet and still, just even to do that, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it is hard. Even this morning, it was like, oh, look, I'm being given a gift. I should take advantage of it. So I tried, but everything starts to um, run. But Lucas was also, I was sitting on the bed and Lucas was sleeping on the bed and starting to snore. So I focused on the snoring. But the other thing we do is we will try to take about an hour walk in the morning. I don't bring my headphones. I don't listen to anything, just the birds. And I follow him wherever he wants to go, we go, because he's showing me different animals or different flowers, whatever it may be, or different things that, I told myself or called myself in the video about stillness that I'm the dog poop fairy because I have this compulsion to clean up all the people's dog poop that they leave in the preserve. Anyway, side note. But I find that with my body moving, I can quiet everything else because I have to. And plus, because I follow him and he shows me where to go, how fast we're going to move, when we need to stop and breathe or ground, that kind of helps allow me to still for that. Because I wrote down like for even just to hear like myself, but also that's also when I'll ask, do I need to do this? Because you talked about discernment, that stillness can help with discernment, which is a big thing for me to be that I'm working on right now. So that movement, I find walking meditation is an allowable thing, I'll say. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it keeps yeah, it gives your body and brain lower level processing things to focus on, so you can
Mhm.
really just kind of let that go. And because for generators, a lot of times they get misconstrued about the word rest. Rest is, think of it as the short form of restoration. So
Yeah.
something that lights you up. It could be rock climbing. I mean, like the thing that actually makes you feel centered. And my partner who's a generator, like I mentioned, he said that the times when he feels most like still and at peace is when his like when he's flying an airplane or when he's doing something that requires or playing the drums, like full presence to be there. So he
Mhm.
can't think of anything else almost.
Yeah.
And so that sounds a little familiar when you're talking about like if I'm doing something that's just kind of low level doing it, whatever it is, then I have the ability to tune in and tap in and see how I'm feeling. He would have told me the same thing. Um, and for me, I go with my dog in the morning too, but since I'm a projector, it's more like 15 minutes, not an hour, because I don't have the stamina to do it for an hour. I'd be done for the day. But yeah, I do the same thing. I let her go wherever she's going to go. And I'm really just out there trying to get sunrise and trying to like just hear the sounds. And the other day we had, actually, I'll tell you this story. We have a little trail near us. I don't always do it, but the other day I woke up feeling really energetic and I was like, let's do the trail. I didn't tell her this, but we just started walking and it was early morning, like 6:10, 6:15 in the morning. And we had the whole thing to ourselves and it was so peaceful. And I just let her like flash in the water and go do the things. And we came upon these deer. There were two deer. One was bigger than the other, so I'm assuming it was, a younger foal. And Maddie hadn't seen them yet. So I did, and I held her back and I just had her sit. And she's like, okay, I don't know why we're sitting, mom, but like, okay, I'm fine, I'll sitting. And I just sort of looked at the deer and I was just like, I was talking to the deer as if I was talking to the deer, right? I was like, no, go for it. We'll wait here, kind of thing. And the deer like literally nodded at me and then walked across. And I just sat there super calm. And then at some point when it walked across, Maddie saw it, right? And then she was like, "Rrr," and I was like, nope, it's okay, Maddie. We're gonna just give him some space. And then she kind of stopped. Then the other one, like, wasn't sure if it was safe. And I was like, no, no, we'll wait. And then again, just kind of went right across. And I was like, great. And it's sort of that field holding that you're noticing and you're seeing. And when you do that and you connect and you have that sensitivity that gets heightened, that you're able to pick up on cues and hear the birds and see the deer and notice the beautiful flowers, like that's it's such a gift, right? In and of
Yeah.
itself, just to notice what's around us. And um, yeah, so I'm glad that you have that experience too when you walk.
Yeah. I'm glad you share that too, because deer I use these medicine cards that are indigenous, and the medicine that they represent is gentleness. So in that moment you had, and just because it was so early too, I'm sure the dawn chorus might have even started to hear, with the birds singing in the morning and everything. Oh, that sounds just so beautiful.
Yeah, it was.
Oh.
I seriously felt like we were having a conversation. I was like, no, no, go ahead. You talk. Nodding. like, it's just,
Oh,
it was magical.
oh, which is so cool. So I just wanted to mention just a couple other things before I let you go. You said something about to the effect of when you walk through every type, how important stillness, silence is.
Mhm.
And so, and you said something to the effect like we don't allow ourselves to do this because either lazy or conditioning or whatnot. And yet it is actual medicine, if
Mm.
you will, for us. If we don't, we're not at our best. And I just find that so to me, it gives me as a generator, like, oh, it's something I need to do, like that kind of an energy in
Mhm.
an effort that like I have to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can think of it like your nervous system, right? So our nervous system, we have sympathetic and parasympathetic, and it's stages of fight or flight or rest and repair, right? That's our nervous system always cycles around this level of homeostasis. So homeostasis is like that baseline calm, I'll say calm alert energy, right? When you're not being swung in either direction, you're not super restorative and tired and resting and coming down, but you're not also up here getting triggered or, reacting and doing and one of the things. So we're trying to get to homeostasis, which is the stillness, right? It's
Hmm.
that it's the still point in the wave of our nervous system, if you can kind of think about it like that.
Yeah.
And our nervous system fluctuates around it based on what our environment is. And so if we're always all over the place and we never come back to baseline, it's really hard for us to know what our baseline is. And then we get overstimulated or we get way too down. And it's never a good idea for us to spend too much time in any of our activated or deactivated states of our nervous system. We're in
Mhm.
fight or flight. Some people are for years, right? They're chronically stressed. They've got cortisol pumping through their system, right? That leads to dis-ease and ill health and, you know, and all of that. And then if we're parasympathetic for too low, you can have depression, you can, all, there are all these things that can happen and energetically down. So there are benefits to these states. There's reasons why we have the ability to access them, right? I want to run from the tiger and then I need to rest and recover after I run from the tiger, right? But
Mhm.
ultimately, you kind of want to be in this homeostasis way. And that is something I think we don't allow ourselves to do. But that is kind of what you're talking about. We need those. We need we need all the parts of the wave. We need all the parts.
Yeah.
Even,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I will let you go. I just wanted to tell everybody that not to forget that one of the spirit animals that came in also for stillness was alligator, oddly
Oh,
enough, which is about integration.
not.
And also raven, which is about magic. And you've said the word magic and whatnot. So I just wanted to remind people, don't forget that if, as you're thinking through everything that Dr. Jennifer Rochlis has shared today, that you can call on alligator for integration, raven for magic, and wolf as teacher again too. So
I love that because the integration and the teaching really go hand in hand because,
mm,
we have experiences. We take what we when we have abilities to be still and integrate, that's
mhm,
when we take the magic from those experiences and we're like, this is what I want to take in for me, this is what I want to fold into my story and my life.
mhm,
And then if some of us are here to teach and some of us are not, but those of us who are here to teach, right, it's what I've learned and integrated do I want to share with the rest of the world.
yeah,
So it's beautiful how all three of those come up because it is, again, it's a cycle, right? It says I've experienced, I'm out doing, I'm out being, and then I pull in, I integrate, I go down into the stillness, and then I
mhm.
come back to this calm kind of assertive and going, I'm going to now embody this and I'm going to share with you, whether by actual teaching or just by embodying it, and then you can learn from me. So I think that's a nice synergy there.
That's lovely. Thank you for summarizing all of that. Cool. Well, thank you so much for having this conversation with me so that we can share it with a lot of people. I really appreciate it. I think you're amazing, as you know. So, yes.
I think you're amazing, and I'm so grateful for you, and I'm grateful for this conversation. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome. All right. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks.